Most Brazilian learners think they're struggling with English. I mean, they are absolutely convinced of it, but they're actually struggling with something else entirely.
Yeah, the weird thing isn't the vocabulary, and it's definitely not the accent.
No, it's what trying to speak English actually does to your personality.
Because you're actively suppressing the exact traits that would make you a brilliant communicator, all because you're just terrified of breaking a rule.
Welcome back to English Unfiltered. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a psychological trap that completely flips the script on how you think about learning a language.
It really does.
We're breaking down a fascinating phenomenon regarding the hidden advantages Brazilians actually have in English. And, we need to talk about this because understanding the mechanics of this is going to change how you see yourself in literally every conversation.
It completely reframes the entire experience. Well, let's be honest. If you are a Brazilian learning English, you probably walk around with this mental bulleted list of your weaknesses.
Oh, absolutely.
You're hyper aware of your accent.
Right.
You're constantly analyzing your own pronunciation. You're terrified of making a grammar mistake.
And the vocabulary, you always feel like you have this embarrassingly limited vocabulary, like you can't find the exact right word.
Right. And hovering over all those insecurities is this constant suffocating fear of judgment from native speakers. You just assume they're grading you.
But why do you believe that? Like, why is that the default mindset for so many of you?
It's because traditional language learning is basically an autopsy of your mistakes.
Wait, an autopsy? I love that phrasing.
Yeah, think about it. The entire educational system is built on highlighting what you did wrong with a red pen, rather than focusing on actual communication effectiveness. They look at what's broken.
Okay, let's unpack that, because it's just so true. You go into a conversation thinking, if I don't formulate the present perfect continuous tense perfectly in my head before I open my mouth, well, I have failed.
But here is where the dynamic completely shifts. There is a massive psychological advantage hidden in Brazilian culture that most learners are completely ignoring.
They aren't just ignoring it, they're actively hiding it.
Exactly. And we're going to break down exactly what that is and why it works on a neurological level.
And honestly, that's not even the strangest part. Because the way you naturally handle awkwardness might actually be your ultimate superpower. But we'll come back to that.
We definitely will.
First, we need to talk about the reality of what actually makes someone a quote-unquote good communicator. Because I guarantee you, it is not what you think.
It really isn't. When we look at the sociolinguistic data, communication effectiveness depends on far more than just linguistic accuracy.
Right.
The words you use are only a tiny fraction of the data being exchanged in any given moment.
Wait, hold on. Let me push back on that immediately. Because when you're the one learning, it feels like you're walking on a tightrope over a canyon. You are so focused on assembling the perfect grammatical sentence that you end up sounding like a robot.
Yeah, completely stiff.
Right. So, how is accuracy not the most important thing? If you use the wrong verb, people literally don't understand you, right?
You would think so, but that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how human brains process language. Let's look at the first massive advantage we're exploring today, which is emotional expressiveness.
Okay, emotional expressiveness.
Yeah. Compared to many cultures, Brazilians communicate with immense warmth, enthusiasm, emotional variation, facial expression, and vocal energy.
Oh, that's definitely true. The volume, the hands, the massive facial expressions.
Exactly. And those nonverbal cues are what actually lower the affective filter in the person listening to you.
The affective filter.
Right, the psychological barrier that stops people from connecting. Those expressive cues are the actual mechanisms that create rapport. They make interactions feel engaging and human.
Okay, I want to paint a picture here for you listening. Imagine you are standing at a professional networking event. Let's say you're in London. You're holding a glass of water, your palms are sweating, and someone asks you a relatively simple question about your industry.
A total nightmare scenario for a lot of people.
Dude, totally. And internally, you just freeze. You are so terrified of using the wrong preposition or messing up the verb tense that your face goes completely blank.
Yes.
You stiffen your shoulders, you strip away all of your natural warmth, all your personality, just to redirect all your brain power into getting the grammar perfectly right.
And that right there is the absolute tragedy of it. Mm-hmm. By focusing entirely on avoiding a grammar mistake, you are starving your social brain.
Starving it. Wow.
You are killing the facial expressions and the vocal prosody, the natural melody of your voice that actually tell the other person, hey, I am safe, I am friendly, and I'm interested in you.
Yeah.
You are literally sacrificing your personality for the illusion of perfection.
Wait, So you're saying the grammar mistake isn't what ruins the connection. Losing my enthusiasm is what ruins it.
The problem isn't your English, it's your anticipation.
Whoa! Say that again.
The problem isn't your English, it's your anticipation. You're anticipating a mistake, and the cognitive load of that anxiety is so heavy that you shut down the very tools, your warmth, your emotional variation, that would make the other person enjoy talking to you regardless of the vocabulary you use.
Okay, I want to use an analogy here because this is honestly blowing my mind. It's like watching a video online.
Okay, a video.
Yeah, if the video buffering glitches for a second, but the audio is still playing and the story's great, your brain just fills in the gaps, right? You keep watching.
Absolutely, you don't even really notice the glitch.
But if the whole screen goes black and silent, you just close the tab. The grammar mistake is just a tiny buffering glitch. But losing your warmth and your personality, that's the screen going completely black.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. When your screen goes black, the listener's brain registers that blankness as coldness or disinterest.
Right, they don't know you're doing grammar math in your head.
Exactly. They don't think, oh, they're calculating a verb tense. They think, this person doesn't want to talk to me. The research shows that these traits, the warmth, the enthusiasm, they bridge the gap. They keep the other person watching the video.
Okay, so if emotional expressiveness is what builds the rapport initially, what happens when the video actually does stop buffering, like fully freezes?
Wait.
Because, let's be real, you are going to hit a roadblock. You are going to completely forget a word. It happens to everyone, even in your native language.
Oh, for sure. And that brings us to the second major advantage, which is something Brazilians possess naturally.
Yeah.
Conversational flexibility.
Okay, let's talk about the awkward pause. You know the exact feeling. You're mid-sentence, you are telling a great story, you've got their attention, and suddenly
Your brain just deletes a crucial word.
it's just gone. Panic immediately sets in, your heart rate spikes, a 3-second silence feels like it lasts for 3 agonizing hours.
It's the worst feeling. But look at how Brazilians naturally navigate informal social interactions in their own culture. Adapting quickly to changing topics, pivoting, maintaining the conversational rhythm, even when context or information is completely missing, that is a core cultural skill.
It really is a reflex.
Yes.
It's a reflex.
And this is what makes me so frustrated with how we learn. Like, why doesn't anyone teach us this?
because it's hard to put in a textbook.
Right. We spend hundreds of hours memorizing esoteric vocabulary lists, trying to cram every possible noun into our short-term memory. But nobody ever tells us that simply keeping the rhythm going is a valid, highly effective communication strategy.
It's because traditional schooling tests you on the missing word. If the word is blank, you fail the test.
Yeah, you get the red X.
But real life tests you on the flow. The rhythm of a conversation is a social contract. The flow often matters significantly more than the specific missing word.
So the rhythm is more important than the accuracy. In a social context, absolutely. If you can shrug off the forgotten word, maybe use your hands, maybe laugh at your own memory lapse, and just pivot to a different description, the other person stays engaged. The rhythm survives.
It's almost like fluency changes the type of fear.
Fluency changes the type of fear. How do you mean?
Like, when you're a beginner, you fear the missing word. You're obsessed with it. But as you get better, you stop fearing the missing word and you start fearing losing the connection. You realize the word itself doesn't matter nearly as much as keeping the other person engaged in the moment.
Exactly. You realize that the goal isn't to generate a flawless, courtroom-ready transcript of a conversation.
Right.
It's to have a successful interaction. Conversational flexibility means you don't abandon the entire car just because you hit a pothole. You just steer around it and keep driving. The listener wants to keep driving with you.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Let's really test this.
Go for it.
Because flow, rhythm, laughing off mistakes, that is fantastic for a dinner party. It's great for a hostel in Europe. But what about a boardroom?
The professional context.
Yeah. In English-speaking environments, particularly Anglo-Saxon business cultures, isn't everything completely obsessed with brutal directness and efficiency? Doesn't all this warmth and flow just get in the way of getting to the point? If I'm pitching a project in New York, aren't they going to think I'm wasting their time?
That is the exact assumption that paralyzes so many professionals. But if we connect this to the underlying psychology, we find a deeply counterintuitive insight.
Okay, lay it on me.
In Brazilian culture, people generally prioritize connection before efficiency.
Connection before efficiency. Okay, explain how that actually survives in a ruthless corporate environment.
It survives because it hacks the human trust mechanism. Yes, to an outsider, it might seem less direct. It might seem like it takes an extra 5 minutes to get to the core of the meeting. But those 5 minutes are a masterclass in establishing social comfort.
Oh, I see the mechanism now. Because if you build that trust first, it literally changes the listener's filter.
Exactly.
I mean, I've been in situations where because I took the time to actually connect with someone, to ask about them, to be warm, they actually wanted to understand me. They were actively rooting for me to succeed in the pitch. Building trust makes the listener's brain actively work to forgive your linguistic gaps.
Precisely. It comes down to cognitive load again.
Yeah.
If you are just a transaction to them, if you walk in and try to be ruthlessly, coldly efficient, you are forcing them to judge you purely on your data.
Right. And if your data is flawed.
If your data delivery has grammatical errors, every single mistake is a friction point. It's an excuse to say no.
Wow.
But if you've established social comfort first, they are on your side. They are collaborating with you to extract the meaning.
And nothing builds that collaborative feeling faster than storytelling, which is the next massive advantage we really need to talk about.
Storytelling is huge. It really is. Many Brazilians naturally use anecdotes, personal experiences, humor, and highly expressive language to communicate complex ideas. And this isn't just talking a lot. This is a highly sophisticated communication strategy.
It's a Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse.
Yeah, because if you are telling a story, if you're using humor, building up to a punchline, you are literally hijacking the listener's attention. You are guaranteeing higher engagement because human beings are biologically hardwired to listen to narratives.
And think about what is happening in their brain while they are engaged in your story. If they are smiling, if they are anticipating the punchline, what are they not doing?
They aren't grading my prepositions.
Yes.
Remember what we said earlier about the constant fear of judgment? If you're making a room full of native speakers laugh with an anecdote, they literally do not have the cognitive bandwidth to judge whether you used in instead of on. They don't care about the preposition because their brain is craving the end of the story.
That is the ultimate secret here. Most people aren't judging your English nearly as much as you think.
That is so true.
They are judging how the interaction feels. Does it feel tense? Does it feel warm? Does it feel authentic?
That is a massive weight off the shoulders. We spend so much anxious energy worrying about the microscopic judgment of native speakers, but if you leverage storytelling and humor, you completely disarm their critical filter.
So we have to ask the deeper question here. Where do these traits actually come from? Why is this such a specific built-in advantage for Brazilians? Because it raises a fascinating point about the psychology of adaptation.
Right, because we aren't just saying, oh, Brazilians are friendly. That's just a stereotype. There is a structural sociological reason behind this, isn't there?
There really is. When you look at the sociolinguistic makeup, Brazil is an incredibly diverse, high-context culture. It is massive, with distinct regional differences, varied social strata, and diverse communication styles. Because of that, from a very young age, you're constantly navigating different social contexts.
So adapting isn't something you learn in a language class. It's basically baked into the cultural upbringing.
It has to be. You are trained to read the room, to adjust your tone, to figure out the unspoken rules of a new social group, and to find common ground with people who might have a completely different background than you do.
Right.
This lived experience makes adapting to foreign environments far easier than most learners realize. You already have the software for social adaptation installed in your brain. You just need to run it on a new language.
Wait, I need to pause here and clarify something just to make sure we're being completely balanced.
Okay, sure.
Because we're talking a lot about warmth and flow and not worrying about mistakes. And I don't want anyone listening to think we're saying, hey, throw your grammar textbook into the fire. We're not saying you should ignore vocabulary entirely and just aggressively smile at people while speaking broken English.
No, absolutely not. And the psychological data is very clear on this. This does not mean grammar and vocabulary are unimportant.
No.
Without vocabulary, you have no tools to build a house.
You need the bricks.
You need the bricks. Successful communication is the combination of baseline language skills and high-level human connection. It's a multiplier effect.
Okay, that makes total sense. It's not either or. It's not be funny or be accurate. It's understanding that accuracy is only half the equation.
Right. What communication psychology tells us is that perceived warmth, authenticity, engagement, and relatability strongly influence the outcome of any interaction. Science literally shows us that these social factors often carry just as much weight as linguistic perfection.
Just as much weight. That is a part that completely blows my mind. The authenticity and the engagement carry 50% of the grade.
Yep.
And yet, if you look at how we learn, we spend 99% of our time obsessing over the linguistic perfection part, and we actively suppress the authenticity part because we're scared of looking stupid. We're fighting with one hand tied behind our backs.
Which is exactly why many Brazilians drastically underestimate their own strengths.
Yeah.
The entire language learning environment has conditioned them to focus entirely on the errors, completely blinding them to their natural sociolinguistic advantages.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this right now? It means that recognizing these existing strengths should completely shatter your anxiety. It shifts the entire paradigm of what it means to speak English.
Absolutely.
You don't have to build a brand new, sterile, robotic personality from scratch just because the words are different. You already possess the exact psychological tools that make someone a highly effective, memorable communicator.
That is the core of it all. The goal is not to become someone else when you speak English. The goal is to bring the absolute best aspects of yourself into a different language.
That is incredibly empowering to know that the emotional warmth, the storytelling, the conversational flexibility, those aren't things you need to hide in order to sound professional. Those are the exact things you need to lean into.
They are your ultimate advantage. They are what will make people want to talk to you, do business with you, and truly connect with you.
But think about this. If your absolute superpower is conversational flexibility and emotional warmth, what happens when you have to take those specific traits into a rigidly formal, hyper-conservative foreign environment that actively resists them?
Oh, that's the real test.
Right. How do you adapt when the cultural rules don't just differ, but completely clash with everything that makes you a great communicator? Well, that's a whole different conversation.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And it's one we'll have to tackle next time.
Keep bringing the best parts of yourself into every single conversation. Don't let the fear of a missing word silence your personality, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.